I was looking at the video
Yeah.
from last week. I noticed, yeah, that was special. Little singing and dancing and stuff. How you
I,
doing, bro?
so I'm good, man. I'm good. It's Thursday. It's been a quiet week. It's almost over. I'm ready for it to be over. So
Yeah.
it's all good. It's all good. And you?
Doing well, man. Just here we are in August now. That means the last part of summer is crazy hot down here. We baking like baking on a frying pan. It's
Oh my goodness. I wish we were. I think we're only gonna be like 78 today, man. And look, I think I'm seeing the trees already starting to turn. I got
really. Oh
dressed.
wow,
Yes, early. I'm out walking in the morning. I'm like, it's chilly. I got to put on my long sleeves. And I'm always cold too, so that don't help. But I'm like, it's chilly out here. I'm like, oh man, summer over already. I'm like, these are things we endure in Chicago. You know what I mean? It might hit Labor Day weekend, and it'll be like winter in Chicago. You know what I mean? So
crazy. Well, cool, bro. Well, we got a good number of topics here. And the first one, our side eye, I'm gonna just read from my notes. This has to do with a brother who was endorsed by Donald Trump, our president, and he's black, but he also has a Muslim name. His name is Amir Hassan, and we wanted to have a side eye because the fools didn't vote for him because of his name, and he lost to the guy who dropped out.
right.
I mean,
That's the worst
that's
part.
not crazy.
We lost to
Yeah,
a dude who dropped out of the race like 3 months ago.
crazy. So that's our side eye, and then we got Howard University. They're back in the news, and this has to do with the disenrollment and then re-enrollment of several hundred students for as we start the beginning of the school year, and so just the developments that has to do with that situation. Next one, we're actually going to show a couple of videos here. One of them it has to do with Oprah. She makes some comments about how mean people seem to be treating one another. And so we're going to spend a little time on that. And lastly, we're going to talk about the rise of the stay at home boyfriend. The stay at home boyfriend. I'm going to show the video, but I'll be honest, I got some feelings about it because,
You feel a
like,
certain kind of
what?
way?
Like, what?
Right.
The stay at home boyfriend. So I don't have the cards with us today, so we're going to skip the djembe cards, but I wanted to go straight into Howard University. I mean, now, Howard University is a esteemed institution. I'm biased because, as you can see, I'm with the Prairie View
I know you was
University.
rocking your Prairie View today. I was like, okay. I'm like KP's all into the historically black colleges thing. So apropos.
So, I'll be honest, I'll be honest, I thought of my kids and other kids at this time, the idea that you can get kicked out of school. And I think the circumstances that I understand and read was that their financial aid situation wasn't quite, um, hadn't been solved. And so, because of that, and because the money hadn't come in, basically they were kicked out of their courses that they are enrolled in. And it was a huge big thing because several of those students came from New York and other parts of the East Coast. And actually, some schools even responded by enrolling them or at least offering them enrollment in their schools locally. I don't know. Was that what you heard or understood?
Yeah, it's at first. I'll be honest. My first reaction was, "What the f is Howard doing?" I'm like, "This is ridiculous." And the more I've sort of read about it and gotten into it, I kind of flipped. And it's a political hotball right now because Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, as well as Wes Moore in Maryland, um, both have offered. I can't remember if it was free tuition or not, but accommodation for these students who
Mm-hmm.
enrolled. And I'll be honest, all of that smacked of like politicization of a real issue of the students. Like you're trying to score points. I'm not really sure with whom, especially in the case of Wes Moore. I'm like, because your constituency is large, is black and brown largely. So what you doing, bro? But I was like, you're trying to, it was like, oh, Howard's inept and they're not doing anything was one of the takes that I took. But in reading a lot more, I think the issue for me comes down to this. Um, these students did not do what they were supposed to do. I mean, there are
Mm.
issues around financial aid, which I think is real. Howard had reached out to these students multiple times in multiple ways, and the students never responded. They didn't say, oh, my financial aid ain't come through. Oh, I'm still planning on coming. Can you help me to work through an issue? They just didn't respond. And so at some point, they were like, you're not responding. And again, the headline is a little bit deceiving. You know, Howard kicks out students because they couldn't pay. That's the headline. And that's true. However, what I've read is the story is a whole lot more complex than that.
It is
And
usually.
as it usually is, I'm like, the university had reached out to students, had offered opportunities to help them, and the kids didn't. And the reason I've swung to Howard's side on this, and I should say, I am a alum of the esteemed Howard University. I got my master's degree there. I don't have any great affinity to Howard. So I ain't really taking that side like I was there in undergrad and like Howard's amazing. I'm like, it was all right.
It's all right.
It was all right. But at some point, where do we hold ourselves, and in this case, young people, accountable? You have a responsibility as a student, right? And it goes in all kinds of psychological stuff that you and I talked on different episodes as well. You know, we're infantilizing kids. Parents are always doing too much. I'm like, you as even 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid, there's a part of you that needs to grow up. It is your responsibility. Mama shouldn't be writing your college essay for you. You should write it yourself. They helped you to get your financial aid. But again, it's your responsibility to communicate to the school what your situation is if you need additional help or additional time. Because typically my experience is universities will work with you. So
Especially Howard, I would assume.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, you know, there was, when I was at Howard, I mean, trust, that student loan hadn't come in. They was like, okay, well, as soon as you get it, you know, you applied. I'm like, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I'm like, I'm just waiting for the check to come in. They're like, okay, we good. You know,
I mean, that's why I was a little confused about this thing, because now it's been a little while.
right.
But at Prairie View and Rutgers and other schools I've attended, HBCUs and otherwise, they typically, especially when it comes to financial aid, because the money always usually takes a bit of a delay, right?
Right.
Usually, some schools it's months, others it's weeks, but
Right.
eventually the money comes in, and then
Money
they cover your tuition, and then whatever's left over, and they kind of work something out because they know the money's coming in.
Yeah.
And I had suspicion that this had more to do with the federal government and how they're dealing with financial aid, but I'm learning from you this has really more to do with the students, which
At
actually
least the way
200
I
students
read
is a small percentage of the incoming class, correct?
I'm sorry, say that again.
200 students or so is like a small percentage of
Yeah,
the
I mean,
incoming
so they
class.
had 500 students who they disenrolled. They've re-enrolled 200, so it's a net loss of like 300 students. Howard typically, I think, from an undergrad standpoint, is bringing in like 3, 4, 5,000 kids every year. I may be wrong about those numbers, but I mean, it's a relatively large number of
Mhm.
students come in. So this is a fraction, but let's say it's 5,000. 500
Mhm.
students is 10% of your student body, so it's not insignificant from that standpoint.
Mhm.
But you know, and if it was just like on the first flash, they were like, oh, you know, screw you, you know, we got 500 in waiting. You know, I mean, it's not like Harvard and be like, you didn't do your stuff. We gonna boot you, and we got 8 people waiting to take your space, or 25. But I think it felt a little bit like a statement on Howard's part to the students about responsibility. And maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but to me, it's like, I'm like, this is an integrity and responsibility question for the students, you know, and the minimum would be communicate.
Right,
You
right.
know, use your words, communicate.
Well, and I just looked it up. They say they have about 2,200 students enrolling, first year students
Okay.
enrolling all together. So
That was
if
high.
about 200 or 300 didn't get in,
Mhm.
I don't want to minimize this, but
Right.
if what you're saying is true, I mean that's one of the biggest challenges, these students adjusting to what life in college is like and the
Hmm.
responsibility. And to be honest, it's not just a student, especially if you have families where maybe college hasn't been the highest
Right.
priority or it's the first generational,
Hmm.
and so there's those aspects. But you still have to do something in response to these requests and follow, because this is going to follow you through your 4 to 10 year program, your
Yeah.
whatever one you're on. So I mean, I think your point is a really good one. I just wonder what made them decide to reverse their decision with half of those students. Had you
Oh,
learned
oh,
anything?
oh, you know, this shit's called bad press.
Yeah, it was bad
They
press
was
for
getting
them.
drugged through social media and every other form. I mean, look, how are disenrolling 500 students getting to the governor of New York and making a big deal out of it?
But does it continue the problem? Because if we, yeah, we are kind of coddling our young people in some way or another, and then the governor of New York and the governor from Maryland come in and say, "Hey, we'll hook you up."
Right,
I mean, some of that sounds kind of cool. I'm like, "Hey, hey, no reason for you not to miss school this year, right?"
right,
That sounds great.
right.
But I guess what I'm curious now is how does this become a news story in the first place? If this is probably something that happens every year across all campuses
All
across this country.
campus. And that part I don't know. I mean, but I know it happens. I mean, I had friends when I was an undergrad who didn't pay their money and got booted out, you know?
Well, help me out. Help me out. If they were
I mean, it wasn't
disenrolled, that means
500.
they were enrolled. Did they accept? I guess they
They had
accepted,
already
and so that's why they
accepted.
were
They had
enrolled.
already accepted. They had financial deadlines that they were supposed to meet that they did not meet. And again, the parts that I will over-index on was they failed to communicate. So it wasn't even like they're like, "Hey, I didn't get my financial aid." It was like they're reaching out and they're like, they just not responding.
Mhm.
You know, I'm like, you got to say something. You know,
How many of those students? And again, help me out because I feel like some time has gone by because most of my kids
I'm
have
older than
done
you are,
their thing.
so if time's has gone by for you, I'm sitting
Yeah,
at Methuselah range, right?
well, and this is the part. I'm like, how many of those students maybe were enrolled in another school and thought maybe I'm gonna, instead of Howard, I'm gonna go to
Right,
Prairie View, I'm gonna go to Houston
right,
Tillotson
right.
or
My
whatever
safety school or
institution.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, and so just kind of they fell them off the
yeah.
rolls because they're like they're probably going to school somewhere else.
I don't know.
Was it some misunderstanding? You think?
Clearly, a misunderstanding and a miscommunication. But it was interesting. I remember reading about a young lady who, you know, horrible story, but could be life affirming, right? She's living in a shelter in New York State, and she was one of the kids who got disenrolled and was re-enrolled and was very grateful. And I thought her takeaway was, one, I've never been to college. I don't have anybody to assist me. It was a little bit of mea culpa. I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then she said, well, I'm really relieved to be back in. And it's a blessing. It's a learning lesson for me. And I do hope for most of the students, it's a bit of a learning lesson.
Yeah.
It's like you can't, and it's not all their responsibility. Let's be clear about
Right.
that. I mean, some of this falls on their parents and their college, their high schools who should have been supporting them through some of this. But at the end of the day, it's your responsibility. You do, it's a bill that you are incurring, and and it's a very grown up situation that you have to deal with, right? I mean, and I'm sure for that young lady, maybe this is the first time she's ever in her life had to deal with something around significant finances and all that kind of stuff. Um, so I'll give her a pass on that. But you were grown enough to make a decision about going to college. You're grown enough to make a decision about which college you're going to go to. Um, then you should be grown enough to understand. Oh, and by the way, I'm sure you were grown enough to, fill out that paper to get that Pell Grant and everything else. These are all grown up decisions that you're making along the way. And I know I sound like some old hard ass, but I'm like, at some point, this is also a part of that process of growing up, I mean, and college teaches you a whole lot that ain't in books, in my experience. So, and the university itself too, because it's like, okay, that seems
Yeah.
really hard ass. Um, and maybe there's a point where you're like, yeah, you know, y'all 500, and maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was them 500 just never responded, and they're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
we don't want to, but we gonna have to.
Right. And
You
we
know,
have all these
they're
other
like, we're
students
holding
who might want to go
dorms,
to
we're
school
holding,
here.
right. They're holding dorms and all kinds of other things for these students who may or may not be showing up. You know, that's disenfranchising the other 2,200 or, 1,800 kids who did do all the stuff that they were supposed to do, may not be able to get a dorm room because that, whatever. So, I mean, I don't know that, but I'm just thinking. And it does go back to, my favorite thing is we's all a community.
Right.
What you do impacts other people, and that's not the story that we're talking about, but I also think the choices and decisions that you make have impacts on other people, and same for me. And so, of being a little bit cognizant, and maybe that's a lot to ask of a 17 or an 18-year-old, but being cognizant of like the choices that you're making do impact other people, in addition to yourself, might be something worthwhile to explore.
Well, the thing what you made me recall is that this is something simple, but I think it illustrates the challenge. And this is again a bit dated, but when a student would come to me and say, "Hey, Dr. Prince, I need a letter of recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, could you write me a letter of recommendation?" I would say, it would be a pleasure
Mm-hmm.
to write a very robust
Mm-hmm.
recommendation for you. It would be for jobs or grad
Right.
school or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing I would tell them before they left my office or finished the conversation or email, it would be say, "Look, I'm going to be real honest with you. I'm a busy person, got a lot going on. I will write this letter of recommendation, but it may fall off my radar.
Yep.
It is incumbent upon you to bug me, be a pain in my ass. I'm giving you permission
Right.
to reach out, call,
Mm-hmm.
do what you need to make sure this recommendation letter is. I'm going to do it. I'm agreeing to do it.
Right.
But y'all need to make it a responsibility of, because in the end, this ain't my life. Your life is not my life.
You're like, I got my multiple degrees. I'm good.
Go get yours because I got mine.
I got mine.
And I'm giving you permission. You're right. And the reason I'm saying it that way because it's like,
right.
They want to be pushy or whatever, and sometimes you need to be given permission to do certain kinds of things. And so I guess that's the kind of advice I've given my own kids, other people, is like, this is impacting you first. Make this the highest priority by encouraging others to make it a priority.
Right.
And that's sometimes the best you can do in these situations. And if they still fall through, it falls through. There's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
But
you did your part.
Yes. And so that's advice I've given to many people. And so I think with these students, if this, everything that you're saying is accurate, sounds like it is, that's the learning curve, and unfortunately we do, and I'm trying to find a balance, right?
Yeah, fair.
I don't want to be quite like how I was treated as a latchkey kid out there in the wilderness, just trying to survive. I mean, you make your own peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, figure it out, Nurgle.
Right.
But at the same time, I don't want to coddle them, and I know what feels like coddling to me is different than I think this coming generation.
Yeah.
But there has to be a balance.
There's balance
in my mind.
Yep.
And can we find that balance? And and again, I'm still suspicious. Who made this the story? If this is something that happens day in and day out every freaking
I still don't understand that piece either. Like, how did this rise, this sort of internal university situation? How did this rise? And I suspect it was probably some family or some student who took umbrage, right, that they were kicked out, and they floated this story, and it's Howard kicked me out, without.
Well, the assumption is what? It's Howard's raggedy, and they're not doing their job.
Well, and I think that's a part of the historically Black college story that is loved to be told, and lots of the comments that I saw kind of pertaining to this was Howard is raggedy as hell, and this is just another example of how raggedy they are as a university, which
is the real story, maybe.
I think that's a part of the real story, right? Because that communicates something that I think it readily supports a position of, Black incompetence, and all of that. That's like, see, they can't even enroll students, and they mean and hurtful to the poor little babies. You don't give a damn about the baby in general,
Babies.
you know.
The babies. Well, let's talk about someone else's baby who's been mistreated. Amir Hassan.
Agree.
Now this is now let's be clear. This person, I'm gonna start off nice. This person, Amir Hassan,
You shouldn't just
is
go for it.
running for a GOP position. Was endorsed by Donald Trump, and was assumed that he would win this race because he was all about the way he spoke, and and the thing is that the brother, when you listen to him without having to agree or disagree with him, he's well spoken. He seems educated, intelligent, all the things you might want to have in a candidate. But his name again is Amir Hassan. Apparently, for months and weeks prior to the primary they had, uh, the racist, Islamophobic, straight up hateful people were canceling him as a candidate because they thought he was going to bring Sharia law. The MAGA endorsed candidate was going to bring Sharia law, and they just mistreated this man,
Right.
absolutely for no reason. When he was on their side, you talking about friendly fire,
Right.
and then the copa, I don't know what the right phrase is, but the grande resistance.
Mm-hmm.
The man loses to the person he was competing against, who had dropped out the race 3 months earlier.
3 months before.
Bruh.
The
racism,
the racism,
the Islamophobia.
Right. I mean, it's all of
Real.
the isms, and I'm like, and again, it tells you something, because MAGA, usually hook, line, and sinker, goes with whoever Trump promotes as a candidate. They could be the worst thing ever, pedophiles, all kinds of stuff, but like, oh, Trump endorsed them, so they must be, they're gonna go run for it. Except in this case, and it does make one pause.
I mean, racism is a real thing, y'all. I mean,
right? I'm like, you're like,
well spoken, educated.
Well,
I mean, you look good.
He's
good looking brother.
Right, them's two strikes. You well spoken, and you sound like you educated. That's a problem. Clearly, I mean, like, in some ways, he sounded a little bit like he was just a regular old Republican.
Yeah, he was. He was
playing.
He had blackface.
It might be problematic. He ain't quite MAGA enough, but
apparently not.
It's like, you're black with a Muslim-sounding name, and you lost to a dude who ain't even running.
Yeah, I don't know what the consequences are. I don't know if the guy who won is going to be like, yo, I wasn't running, give it to Amir. I don't think that's how it works. I think homeboy. And if I was homeboy, I'd probably be like, it sucks to be you, bro.
Right. Right. Exactly.
I'm running.
You're like, your political career is over. You lost to a dude who wasn't even running. I didn't campaign for 3 months. I mean, like,
but he reminds me of, like, what's that brother down in Florida, Donald something?
Oh, Byron Donalds.
Byron Donalds. He reminded of him a little bit, because there's a part of me that wants to believe there's a certain innocence. Let's call it innocence, where they believe.
You are feeling really nice today. What's going on? Sidebar. What's going on?
Well, we're gonna talk about people being mean here in a minute, so maybe that's why.
Right.
But
predisposed to, like, I'm really nice today.
But
the KP,
you see,
feet, man.
Well, Donald, I want to believe he has a good heart. He has good intention. He's just wrong on a lot of things, right? Just ass wrong. And so I want to believe that this brother, I don't know him, Amir Hassan. Mm-hmm. I assume he loves his family and his friends are great and all that good stuff. Right? All those. But you got to be mortified. You have to have some cognitive dissonance to be in the situation. And you've seen it with the brother who's out of South Carolina. Like, what's the brother from South Carolina? Yeah.
Tim Scott.
That fool. Every once in a while, he has this, like,
correct term. That fool.
He has this, like, moments of epiphany, like, racism is real. Just the day before, he's like, racism don't count. And then he has an experience with racism, and all of a sudden he's like JJ from Good Times.
Right.
Which just like dynamite. Racism is real.
Exactly. I like my blood.
So, what do you think Amir did when he woke up in the morning? After all that he spent time roaming the state, talking to all these people, kissing babies, and what do you imagine how he woke up? What do you think what was his state of mind, my brother?
You know what flashed through my mind? He woke up and he immediately went to the scotch to the scotch in the cabinet and just like poured a triple. He's like, right, exactly. He's like, F it. I'm like, he's like, I can't believe I lost, I mean, the only thing worse would have been like, I lost to a dead man,
I mean, that would have been better.
Right.
He was dead and we were sympathetic to his dead ass.
Right, exactly.
His memory.
I'm like
lost to the wife or the girlfriend or sister of someone dead. That
exactly.
made more sense.
Right, some sense.
He lost.
You lost to a dude who dropped out. Now, who knows? Maybe he was a terrible campaigner, But I'm like, you were giving up all the tropes. I'm like, it don't make no sense. All I come down to is racism and Islamophobia. I mean, somebody else might come up with a different outcome, but I'm like, them's the two things that I see quite obviously, And I will say, juxtaposed to Dr. El Sayed in Michigan, who Muslim Persian man, who beats the Democrat.
Michigan, yeah. Abdul El Asid, yes.
Who wins his race as a brown man with he's not a democratic socialist, which everybody keeps trying to say. He has said clearly, I am not a democratic socialist,
I'm a capitalist.
but pretty far left leaning. Who wins his race, and again, but then they throw shade. He's like, well, they thought he would win by more. He only won by, I'm like, bro, he won. Right.
The fact that he won.
Right. Let's just leave it at he won. So that's an interesting, to me, juxtaposition of those two things. I mean, and maybe it gears me toward Brother Hassan's situation is more about race than Islam. Because if I look at these two cats, what's the difference? Now Michigan, I don't know, where was Hassan running? Do you know?
I forget off the top of my head. I'm sorry. I'll look it up. But finish your thought.
Google. But so we could argue, Michigan is pretty purple, if not historically blue leaning. So that might have been a difference. But running a campaign. So I just think, well, maybe this racism piece, in MAGA world is more significant than we would want to admit. And frankly, given the rise of white supremacy culture under Donald Trump and of, pure flat out, white supremacists in this country under Donald Trump's leadership, that racism would be playing a role in his loss would not be remotely surprising and definitely not shocking.
Well, here's the irony, my brother. My brother Amir Hassan was running for Congress in Michigan.
Oh,
the same MFN state.
Right? Okay.
So it must be whoever the guy he lost to will be running against Abdul El Sayed for the seat.
You still being super nice today, because I'm like,
I'm trying to bring some kindness. Trying to bring some kindness to the world. Well, it's I feel bad for him because racism is always ugly when you see it, even when in this situation. But it speaks to the reality and the truth of the situation. You got some racist, Islamophobic, hateful people out there who don't even look at the ballot, don't listen to what Trump is saying, and vote accordingly because they just saw a face and a name and said, "Hell no."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we're gonna bring Sharia law here.
You kinder than me because I don't feel bad for him because he got bad politics as far as I'm concerned. So,
I mean, he was going to do some harm to to
right,
his state.
exactly.
So
So I'm like,
straight up.
go on about your business. You know,
Well, let's switch up subjects because I want to talk about what's the next one? I want to talk
Oprah.
about
Oprah
see,
signing.
it's a you want to do Oprah next?
That's up to you.
Let's do I want to do the one with about old girl who's upset about this about
Men,
sorry
men, men being at home,
men being at home. She did
being took
not like
care
that.
of. You like
I was like, ooh,
she ain't
let me
have.
see here. Got it here.
Let's check it
No,
out.
no, not that one. Not that one. Stop sharing. Sorry about that.
Mhm.
Let me get back to you. 1 second.
See, Hassan's still trying to get elected. That's what he's
Sounds
doing.
like,
He like,
help me.
maybe it's not too late. It's too late, bro.
I need a chance.
Right.
Here we go. Oh, no, it's not here. Oh, there you go. Boom. Here we go. All right, y'all ready? Let's do it. A little slow.
Said
No,
yes,
not real.
More and more, due to changing economic factors, Gen Z women are financially supporting the men in their life. Federal Reserve data show over the last 12 months, the number of jobs held by men fell by 142,000. Women gained 298,000 jobs. Indeed's hiring lab found 1.2 million jobs were added between February 2024 and February 2026, and 2/3 of those jobs went to women. So if you listen to Destiny's Child, ladies, leave your man at home. Probably because he can't afford a night out.
Because there's also the old school, ain't nothing going on but the rent. Got to have the J-O-B if you want to be with
It's
me.
a no for me, y'all. It's so
Really?
hard out here.
Is
Yes.
it hard? You are a
It is.
beautiful, successful woman.
Sorry.
Single woman. Because,
Yep.
you know, I have found, and
Single.
don't at me, don't send me the emails. Nine times out of 10, a man is intimidated by a woman that has more money than them. And so, but then there's this new generation of men that are looking for a sugar mama.
No.
They're looking for a lady to take care of them. And they want to be kind of like, look, the men in here are all.
They're all like, no, because
No, this is
Kelly and I
fair.
have been talking about this for a project that we're working on. And I was saying to her that, like, look, my wife has 7 Emmys. She has 2 Peabodys.
You're rare.
You're on an
You're a
island.
rare
Thank you.
breed.
Give it to him.
Why? Why am I rare?
Because when I would go out and I would say where I went to school or where I worked, all of a sudden it would be like, oh, do you think you're better than me? I'm like, what?
That's plenty to go off of.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
They had some really strong feelings about this. And I don't know if it's just Gen Z. There's probably others out there too, but really strong feelings about the idea of women being the breadwinners and these men staying home. Now I don't know if they're trad husbands or trad boyfriends or whatever the right
I was
terminology
thinking,
is.
I was like, is that a new category, like trad husband? You know, or is that just
I don't know,
like a bad
they-
hanger-on movie, right? You know,
And then I started trying to evaluate. I said, I think those women are probably in their 30s or 40s. So I'm thinking, you know, this is were they millennials? What? Why do you think they had such a hard time with this idea of because these men must be lazy? I mean, what's the
that's
premise?
basically the underlying trope. You know, that these young men are lazy. Even though she gave some statistics about what's happening in the job market and you know where jobs are moving in terms of healthcare, which have been traditionally female led professions, at least on the nursing level. You know, I mean, there is an underlying question, which is the culture changing? You know, I mean, on the positive side, where we go, well, maybe our heterosexist patriarchal way of being is changing, and you know, we're truly buying into equality. I don't know that I actually believe that that's true, but you know, we can make the argument. And if that's where they're going, then at some level you have to be okay with a woman who makes more money. You know, a woman has to be okay with making more money than the man that she is with. and that doesn't diminish him necessarily. So, what are we really saying? But the vehemence says something about, as much as women are, or at least these two women are talking about equality, or I assume they're talking about equality, they ain't buying into, there's a certain kind of equality, which is, I want to have a great job, make the money that I make, but my man got to bring something to the table too,
And
which
I
I'm
get
down
that
with.
to a point. I get that to a point. But remember that? Did you watch Insecure with the sister
Issa
um,
Rae.
Issa Rae? Yeah. And the whole premise of that show started off because she was disappointed in her man because he had lost his job and was unemployed,
Mm.
sitting around the house, wasn't being as productive. Now, eventually he did, and if you watch the series, they ended up both being very, very successful at their jobs. But the challenge is that she was disappointed, and they actually broke up because he wasn't really doing anything
Mm-hmm.
and kind of lost himself a
Yep.
little bit. And I remember you had to be Team Issa or Team whatever his
Right.
name was on the show, Lazarus or something like that. I don't know if that was his name, but I was hit on his side because I was like, bruh, we have rough times in life sometimes,
Mhm.
and you need a partner who's gonna, not just financially, who's gonna support you, but emotionally. Otherwise, I don't know how long are you supposed to let that last. Like, I don't know if it's like 6 months, a year, 2 years.
Right.
And is it different when you're married versus when you're just dating?
Mhm.
You can make some more strong arguments, but I think it goes against this idea that somehow men, particularly if they're not being productive, there's something wrong with them on a
Yes.
fundamental level.
Yes.
Now, me personally, I feel like I was talking to someone on the phone yesterday. I said, hey, I grew up with this notion from my uncles who said, look, if you're not earning, you better be learning. If you're not learning, you better be earning. It goes back to the idea of being productive, right? You can't just be
Yeah.
sitting around finding yourself, getting familiar with the birds and bees and the seas and the trees. I mean, you better be doing something.
Gotta be doing something.
So I get the sense of doing something.
Yep.
I have a struggle with somehow they're immoral or less of a man because
Yep.
they're being a trad husband or whatever the term might be.
Whatever it could be. You've created a whole new term, trad husband.
Well, the thing is and are they have the same criticism of women who decide to stay at home if they don't have any kids? Are they just lazy bums sitting
Right.
around just collecting dust? I mean, maybe they are. I don't know.
Yes, they are. Let me just own that. Yes, they are. They're lazy bums too. Like, go find something to do with yourself.
Well, you know what? I guess I haven't had much of a trouble with people like that. As long and this is I'm going to challenge my own assumptions. As long as they were productive in some other form, like okay, if they had kids, they were taking kids around.
Sure.
Even if they didn't have kids, but they are volunteering for nonprofits, or maybe they have their own nonprofit, or maybe they're trying to get their business going.
Mhm.
I don't know, but
Yeah, that's different.
it's hard for me to imagine someone be like at the house staying pretty or watching video games, and maybe that's what they're imagining is guys sitting at the
Right.
house.
Well, he ain't making pretty. All you do exactly. He gaming all day, watching ESPN. And
But he
betting
has
on
a business idea.
costing her money.
But what was that movie? Eat, Pray, Love, or whatever with Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
Remember, she had the husband in the movie, and he had all these ideas, but none of his ideas actually created anything.
Right.
He wasn't a trad
None of it
husband.
ever came to fruition.
But yeah, but people identified with her because they're like, look at this husband who ain't doing shit.
He ain't doing shit. You hot.
And he was a problem because he was, and he loved the hell out of it. And that's why I had a hard time watching that movie because I was like, wait a minute, you over here eat, praying, and loving all over the damn globe, and this man didn't do nothing to you.
Oh.
Now, I didn't read the book. I just saw the movie. That's why I get told by some of my friends. That,
Okay.
well, you didn't read the book. You don't understand how hard it was for her. I'm like, you know what? You're probably right. But in the movie, he didn't do nothing wrong.
He didn't do nothing wrong. He seemed okay. It's interesting. I was read this study a couple of years ago, and it was looking at like hyper successful women. Senior VP, C-suite leaders who were women. And one of the things that the article concluded was hyper successful women tend to look like hyper successful men in terms of their house configuration. Their husbands or partners tended to step back in their careers, if not give up their careers, for their very successful wives. And I was surprised, but when I stepped back, it made a lot of sense. That's not what we're talking about exactly in this situation.
But someone, yeah.
But some of it was like, hey, somebody's got to be there for the kids. Somebody's got to, take care of the household. And I actually know a guy who his wife is incredibly successful, made multiple millions of dollars in her career, and he was an accountant, finance officer, all that kind of stuff. And he actually stopped working to basically Mr. Mom his kids. But that was something that they chose to do.
Right. It was a conscious thing.
It was a conscious decision as a part of their family lifestyle to do that. This situation that we're talking about, it doesn't sound like that's the situation. You know what I mean? I'm willing to carry my partner for a minute while you figuring your ish out, but not forever.
But see, now you make me think about this other story that's been out there about, or maybe it's related to this, but this notion that I don't know, I'm crumbling my thoughts, but there's something about being able to be this trad husband. Is there really anything wrong with it fundamentally? Because I feel like if millennials in general, I think there was a number, there was 41% of men who voted for Kamala Harris wanted a traditional wife, someone who stayed at home, took care of the kids. So these are progressives. So we assume these are MAGA folks.
That kind of surprised.
No, these are progressives.
Mm-hmm.
And so 41% of them wanted a tradition because it just felt right to them in some way or another. I don't know what the circumstances are. And so, I don't know if that can apply for women as well, but there's some, I don't know. I feel like there's some, I was talking to my daughter about this. And my daughter's been raised by these, liberal ass parents and independent minded woman and father, blah, blah, blah. And when I look at her relationship with her boyfriend, it's not traditional, but there's a part of her is like, I just want him to take my car and get it washed.
Right.
I want him to take out the garbage without me having to ask. These very kind of I won't call them traditional, but this idea of being taken care of and looked after, and men wanting the same kind of being looked after and cared for by their girlfriends and husbands, wives. And I wonder if there's something to that people are falling into, not because they're trying to resist it, like, you can't make me do that, but like choosing it as a lifestyle. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's interesting that people seem to be going in that direction.
Yeah, and I think if it's a choice, like we as a couple have decided this is what we're going to do, live your life. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
The way I was hearing this story was, it didn't seem to be a choice that they were making as a couple. I mean, some of it was circumstantial. Harder for men are having a harder time finding jobs in their traditional area.
Right.
Well, and so it's like almost by default, I mean, it's like where's the conversation around that, and if you're staying at home, are you living up to your side of our partnership bargain, whatever that is, like what, again, whatever it is. So and I do wonder, and they stress sort of this is Gen Z or whatever, maybe we just old and dated.
Maybe, but I can tell you as a parent, I see young people and I'm thinking, what you doing with yourself?
What you doing with yourself?
Because there's a lot of people so there's a greater phenomenon of younger generations staying with their parents for a longer period of time to save money, go to school, whatever the reasons are. But one of the things that are part of that conversation is the assumption is they're getting things done. This is to help them out. There's a whole other crew, I would like to believe as a minority, but they're not doing anything. They're playing video games. Their parents are paying for all their bills. They're not working. They're not going to school. And so I don't know if the worry is that it's something similar to that, where you got these women being their mamas
Yes.
taking care of them, and they're not doing anything. They're not contributing in any way. And maybe that's a concern. I don't know. I feel like I'm reaching here, but
that is. But if that's what's playing out, that is a concern. I mean, and it kind of goes back to that first thing that we were talking about Howard. You know, if this relationship is you as a woman making more money and infantilizing your man, that's problematic.
Yeah.
You know, in all kinds of ways, and a part of why it's problematic is long term. A lot of these women, when they have kids, their husbands are not raising those kids. They are going to work, doing their 9 to 5, and then coming home and raising babies too.
And working more.
You know, right? So you're working at home and in an office. So that piece of it would be concerning to me. And
why would you choose someone like that? Is it a control thing? Because I'd be like, nigga,
right.
I can't imagine picking someone like that who's not.
But you and I are both sort of seeing it as the worst of men, like his trifling ass. And maybe it's not his trifling ass. So, like, to try to be fair, maybe he ain't just trifling. Maybe he trying. I mean, it feels trifling, but maybe he trying. Things ain't working out.
I want to believe he's trying. I want to believe
you super hopeful today.
Damn, I don't know why.
Super hopeful. I'm like, can you go play the lottery tonight and win all that hopeful money?
Well, let me tell you my personal story. So when I just got married, this was 95, 96, somewhere in there. And I just got married over the summer, and we moved with our happy-go-lucky asses to Worcester, Massachusetts. Now, she had a job, and the assumption was I would quit my job in the Bronx and move up to Massachusetts together, and I would find a job. Sure. It's just, this is what you do, right?
Right.
We're talking about months, bro. Months went by before I could find a job. Now, back to the adage. If you're not earning, you should be learning. So my black ass was in the library. I was in the library at the College of Holy Cross so much they thought I was a professor.
He's doing the mood in. You're like,
I was there all the time.
Like, where's your ID, Dr. Prince? You know,
I was applying to different programs. There was Occidental College there. I was applying to other schools across the country. I was busy. I would literally get up, go to the
That's
gym.
your job.
That was my job.
Yeah.
But someone from the outside might look and say, "What's this Negro doing?"
Right. What he doing? Why that woman taking care of this grown ass man?
Right. Because he's always available. I'm like, no, this is me. I got things to do. I got this research I'm doing.
Right.
I did some good research during this time. FYI.
Like coffee.
Finally a job came through and it was great, and it had to do actually with my ex's connections to help me get the position. It was all good. Yeah. But I wonder if this is what some of these men are going through. The perception.
For you, and that's because it's really interesting. What did it feel like for you to be in that situation? Like, was it emotionally hard for you?
No, I just thought she was doing her job and I was doing my job. My contribution was to be an active, participatory person who had things to talk about and things that were interesting. I supported her in the transition. I used all my muscle to move all that shit up into that apartment on the 17th floor. And when she went to work, I made meals. We did things together. I mean, I was an active participant in our relationship. We didn't have kids yet. Yeah. I kept myself busy. I didn't wait for her to tell me what to do and offer this or that. I wouldn't handle business. I was a partner in life.
But you didn't feel like you were a kept man or any of that kind of stuff.
Hell no, because I was keeping myself. Because because she get paid, but then I would think I'll pay the bills for the bills we may have had. Handling, didn't have a whole lot of bills, but we handled business, and I just expected. And the thing is, the circumstances were reversed. So fast forward, we have kids. We moved broke as hell to Austin, Texas. I have a job, not the best paying job, a job.
Right.
She's at home with the kids. She's doing this. We were role reversal.
Right.
She's trying to be in school, trying to look after the kids. I mean, let's be clear, there's a lot more work involved with that than what I had to deal with. Yeah. But it was a reversal, right? Yeah. And I didn't look down on her and be like, what you doing all day? And I was like, you grown. And she was there, like just like me. She was over at the campus at UT doing research. She joined Mocha Moms, the professional women who, were had kids and were stay-at-home moms. But she was busier with them kids and other things she was involved with than when she was working. So I don't know. I just that's kind of what I expected, and I looked down on her. I just feel like this is what we're doing, and we're doing the best we can, and let's pray and hope that we can get beyond this, and eventually it did. But I couldn't imagine. It's hard for me to think if she had looked down on me somehow or another during that time, or if I looked down on her. That wouldn't feel like a partnership to me.
No. And maybe that's underlying what we're sort of alluding to, and maybe what the commentators were alluding to, was this sense of, without knowing a specific situation, that it doesn't sound like a partnership. And what did the sister say? Men are looking for a sugar mama. I mean, that, sugar mama, sugar daddy, by definition, that is not equal. That's not an equal partnership. That comes off as somebody is using somebody else. And I would differentiate between that and what you described in your family situation on both ends of that, right? Like, it was truly a partnership. We are making decisions for our family, for our coupleship, that will eventually move us forward. And, a consequence is this. When I was 11, my family moved to Illinois because my dad got a job in Illinois. My mom was a school teacher, and that they decided that was best for our family to move, and so we moved. But that also meant a massive upheaval for my mom. I mean, she had to leave her job. As a school teacher, you can get a job. She was able to substitute teach very quickly, but there was disruption for sure. So. Yeah, maybe the end of it is, if these arrangements work for their coupleship, a little bit of who am I to say that it doesn't make sense? But I think it's the thing that we don't know, which is what's the underlying conversation behind why this is playing out the way it plays out. And I suspect if it's equal, the relationship won't last.
It won't. And maybe that's the good and bad of this. If they really are unequal in the ways that people are fearing, well, they'll be young and it will not last, and they'll move on. Or the truth is they have a pretty balanced relationship, and this is just a season that they're going through. And I think, and maybe some of us are just jealous, I mean, I have a cousin who says, when we be playing with her and teasing her about some shit, her response every time is like, "Y'all just jealous. That's all. Y'all just jealous. Yeah. Leave me alone. Got my business.
Y'all wish y'all had it like this. Y'all wish."
I mean, I'll be honest. If a sister is like, "Hey, I know your situation's kind of rough right now, job situation, but I'm gonna hold it down, and you do your thing, and we'll work things out," I'll be like, "Thank you."
You're like, quizzically. Thank you.
I'm like, you love me because I'm a hard worker. I'm busting my ass over here. Right. You see me.
Right. I'm gonna be.
But if you a kind of woman who's gonna be like, you lazy. I mean, hold up. Who you calling lazy?
Right. Lazy, trifling ass. When you gonna get a job?
You better go on with that.
Right.
Don't get me started. See, you don't make me be mean today. So.
You had like 50 minutes a night. So you're like, nah, see, like last night.
I'm tired of being nice.
Hell no.
Well, I do want us to get to talking about Oprah, but I feel like we're out of time for today. So I want to start with Oprah next week because I think she has a pretty good insight. Oprah's been our mama, our great auntie, for about 30 years right now. Our rent-a-negro / adoptive Black mama for 40 years. And I think she has a lot to say because there's some extra meanness that seems to be thrown around. I like to call it spear chunking. Folks just chunking spears at each other just for no reason. Why are you throwing spears at me like that?
Right, exactly. There's a lot of hate going on right now. So yeah.
Well, and I think some people started it, but doesn't mean we have to finish it.
That's true.
And it goes against, I think, I think during the Obama years where he's like, when they go low, we go high.
We go high.
People are
Right.
like, fuck that high.
Right. You're like, damn that. Like, I'm like, y'all flying to the sky. I think you're going a little too high right now.
Well, what we learned that oftentimes, it wasn't benefiting us, right? The whole point of is staying high is that you maintain your dignity. You don't have to be in the trenches with these folks, right?
Right.
But in the end, we'll win.
Right. Yes.
And we're like, wait a minute, we just lost this election?
Right. We like that going high doesn't benefit us. Right. Right. I'm like, I'm gonna go high, but don't get it twisted.
I'll
Talk
smack you
shit
in the mouth.
on my way up.
Don't think because I went to Prairie View, I won't smack you in your mouth.
Right. You're like, Dr. Prince got gloves.
Put the paws on you.
Right? You're like, I'm like,
I love to remind people. I said, look, I'm from Fifth Ward, right?
oh.
And they're like, oh.
They're like, oh.
What-
You're like,
what's the
don't
phrase?
let these glasses fool you. Don't let
What
these
they
glasses
say?
articulation fool you. I can get down if I need to. It's been a minute, but I can.
What's that phrase? Don't mistake my kindness as weakness.
That's right. Oh my.
Well, Dr. James, it's always good to see you, my friend. We're gonna start with Oprah next time, but I had fun with you, man.
It's always a good time. I got some laughs and jokes. I don't know that we solved any problems in the world, but we had some food for thought for today. That's for sure.
Well, here we are, Riff 'em All Black. If you haven't already, comment, like, do what you gotta do. Find us on all those things. All right, take care, man.
Peace.